Beautiful humans, happy Tuesday. Today we're here for our third and final time for that current stretch with Anastasia Gerali, a wealth evangelist and a really beautiful spiritual human, working on how do we ground our spiritual energy into the realms of the current world so that we can create love and financial abundance. And in the last two conversations, we explored old paradigm energetics towards like soul-aligned creation. Then we looked at healing wealth wounds. And what had come up in that conversation was already how do we receive and how do we absorb? And that's really where today we're going to focus on very deeply. Anastasia has also worked with Marissa Peer as a hypnotherapist, does a lot of beautiful work in rapid abundance activation. And yeah, so today what we're going to explore is really the energetics of receiving. How do we balance our inner masculine, our inner feminine, and what happens if it's not aligned, and how can we sink into really the safety of being in receivership? So, Anastasia, it's great to have you again.
Lovely to be here again. Lovely to see some familiar faces as well.
Yeah, fast is really like super regular. It's really nice. Yeah, also if any of you feel you want to join the community, just click on the button underneath the video and then you can become part of the Embodied community. So yeah, Anastasia, let's step in. When you speak of energetics of receiving, like what does it really entail to you, and what has been your journey in exploring that in your own life?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, especially when it comes to business, but also relationship. I mean, the ability to receive ultimately is the biggest game changer when we're talking about manifesting, as in making real in your reality, the desires that you have, right? Whether that's a partner or a certain income or clients, opportunities, experiences. It's not, this is kind of the difference that I teach between controlled manifesting and surrendered manifesting, right? Controlled manifesting is very much in the masculine. It's the do, going out there and doing things to get things. The surrendered manifesting, where yes, I do, but because I am being, the receptivity gates are open, right? Because I'm in my beingness, I'm able to not just receive, but absorb. Remember that you will always only ever truly receive that which you feel safe in having. So if you are controlled manifesting and you are out there doing and hustling and grinding, you absolutely can achieve your goals. Everyone can achieve their goals if they put in enough time and efforts and energy, right? But how many of those goals are actually sustainable when you stop efforting? Now, this was very true for me when, on paper, I had everything that I was working so hard for. I was working super long hours. So, of course, I had a business. I was as well in my relationship. I felt like I was working a lot on my relationship to keep my partner happy. I was working a lot on my business to keep my clients happy, working a lot on my business to keep my production partners happy. I was just giving so much. And on paper, I was ticking all those boxes. I had gotten everything that I was working towards. But as soon as I stopped working, then everything stopped working for me, right? So instead of my business working for me, I was working for my business, which is kind of the opposite of what you want to achieve when you're an entrepreneur. You want to achieve more freedom and more ease and more flow and more abundance. And sure, in the beginning, you have to make certain adjustments, in order to be able to input enough so that you can start to see an output and create the momentum that you want. But if that momentum is not sustainable, then that shows that you're actually out of alignment with what you are truly capable of and what you are truly destined for as well. So when we're talking about the energetics of receiving, this was definitely something that I learned a lot when I shifted from like a very masculine way of being in business and relationship, where I was giving, and doing. I completely flipped it on its head, because at that time I burnt out. Not only did I burn out, but I drove myself into debt as well. I got 30K into debt. So although my business was grossing 120K, it was also accumulating quite a lot of debt, which is not a healthy balance. This is it. Like, it's not just about what you're giving and how much you're giving and what you're getting. It's how much are you absorbing? How much are you able to hold? And in that business model, I wasn't able to hold very much, right? And the same goes for my relationship at the time. I was giving and giving, but I wasn't really able to hold the type of relationship that I wanted. So obviously there came a point where all those balls that I was juggling had to drop. And when they dropped, I didn't just lose one thing, I lost everything. So I suffered a massive burnout, which meant that I couldn't work the way that I had been working previously. I had to close my business, I had to file for bankruptcy, and it meant the end of my relationship. And that was when I was really faced with looking at this formula that I was using and looking at how I was applying it, because I was applying it the way that I thought other people were applying it. I was applying it very much the way that I thought it's supposed to work. And then I completely flipped it on its head and said, okay, next time around, I'm doing this and this and this totally differently, which goes against what I naturally want to do. And that is to work all the hours of the day. And that is to give and give and give and hustle and hustle and hustle. And I completely changed my business model, and it became a much easier model to sustain, because it required less time from me. So I went from working 100 hours a week to 25 hours a week. I went from driving myself into debt to finally having a profitable business that I was able to sell within 19 months. And not only that, my next relationship changed completely, from the type of relationship that I was in my very, very masculine, to the type of relationship that I would enter and find in my more feminine. But even that wasn't just yet a refined model, because then I went too much into the feminine, so too much into waiting for things to be done for me, right? And that's where I had to recalibrate and rebalance. Regardless of our gender, we all have masculine and feminine energy. As a sort of generalization, sure, females have more feminine energy and males have more masculine energy. However, women in careers, women who are very career driven, will tend to tap into more of their masculine energy. And that has created a sort of imbalance, which you can definitely see in the dating world, where men have had to sit in more into their feminine energy, right? Because there needs to be some sort of balance between us. And then we have these upset people that they're not getting what they want, or they're having to work so hard for everything that they want. But that's because they're not knowing how to tap into their dark masculine, light masculine, dark feminine, light feminine. And of course, there are shadow sides to that. But it's only when I'm able to give in my masculine and learn how to receive in my feminine that I can become a conduit, right? That's when I can become a circuit where the energy leaves and enters and leaves and enters freely. When I'm conditional in what I give, I'm actually also blocking myself in what I receive.
Wow, there was lots of like awesome things in there. A couple of things that I would like to go deeper in is like the light and dark energies in the masculine and the feminine. What do they look like?
So,
and then the other piece, just to make a note of that, is around the becoming conduit. Like, how do we balance these two energies? And I remember you basically saying, I think the left hand receives and the right hand gives. So there's this interesting kind of like body model. And I think that would be something that I'd love to explore in a lot more depth as well with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll start with that actually. The right side of the body, whenever we're doing any healing work, any energetic work, even when we're doing somatic work, like if I have any physical ailments, pains, dis-ease in the right side of my body, that tells me that that's my masculine side that I need to heal. If I have any pain, disease, ailments, in my left side, that's my feminine side that needs to heal and readjust, right? So always the body is the barometer. The body is able to tell us what's going on inside us, what we're holding on to and what we're storing inside us. And yeah, that is very much how I describe it, like the ability to give from the right, from the masculine, and the ability to receive from the feminine and draw that into the heart as well, right? To absorb into the heart. And then that allows you to amplify it, multiply it before you go and send it out again through the right side. So this is something like I also consciously practice when I'm paying for something. I pay with my right hand and I receive any change with my left hand. So that's just a nice little way to start to make that like a physical circuit in your own body as well. And always saying thank you for everything that we send out, and thank you for everything that we receive. So we're thanking money, we're thanking people, we're thanking everything that can flow to us and through us. So let's talk a little bit about the dark masculine traits and the dark and the light masculine and feminine traits. So the dark masculine is the fearless, the adventurer, the predator, the ability to focus without distraction, to be on purpose, to be a good leader, and to be assertive and have strong boundaries. Of course, there is a shadow side to this, such as being aggressive, such as being manipulative, such as being abusive. So that's the shadow side of the dark masculine. The light masculine is presence, divinity, to be able to witness. It's the observer. It's the ability to hold space and knows silence. So exercises such as meditation, such as breath work, are actually here to recalibrate our masculine. Spending time in isolation is healthy for the masculine to get grounded. The dark feminine is that sexy bitch, that super passionate, that lots and lots of emotion. It's very polarizing. It's that unfuckwithable energy. And then the light feminine is the compassionate, the playful, the flirty, the nurturing, singing, dancing, surrendering, being receptive and flowing and trusting intuition. So exercises that would help us to channel more of our feminine would be dancing, would be singing, right? Would be movement. Also spending time in groups, particularly for the feminine, spending time in groups with other women in sisterhood.
It's really beautiful. I love these categorizations, and I feel that's also something I'm realizing with my partner. We're in this sort of very aligned experience, because I feel really challenged by like singing and dancing. It's something that really plays into my insecurities, and so being with someone who made a career out of this is it's inspiring. I think it's really healing. So thank you for highlighting this. This sits really well with me.
And also, whatever we don't nurture within us, we will seek that outside of us. So whatever we don't nurture within us, in those dark and light traits, we will tend to gravitate towards someone or something that has the opposite, right? Because we're trying to fill a hole. But what that does is actually it will polarize rather than complement. So it will cause a lot of dis-ease and a lot of discomfort, which is why it's so important to understand what is it within me that I'm currently lacking or out of alignment with in both these, in all four of these quadrants, so that I can nurture it, right? So that when I'm in business, I can tap into my my masculine traits to lead, to pursue, to assert certain things, but also tap into my feminine to be part of a team, to nurture, to encourage, right?
That's really interesting that you highlight this, that we tend to seek outside ourselves the things that seem to be out of alignment. Because, yeah, it plays into, on the one hand, team dynamics, but on the other hand, I feel there is this component of what am I yet having to heal? How do you kind of draw the line between these two areas?
Thank you. So for me, your life illustrates what you're doing well or what you have room to grow in, right? If I find myself feeling like I'm not receiving in certain areas, I'm not receiving the income that I want, I'm not receiving the clients that I want, I'm not receiving the opportunities that I want, I'm not receiving the love that I want, then that's a real opportunity to look inwards, right? Because especially when we're talking about business, this is where most people get it wrong. They think strategy. I just need a better strategy. I just need a different strategy. I've tried a million strategies, right? And gotten different results to my peers. And it was like, but this is working for everybody else. Why is it not working for me? Because energetically, I wasn't aligned, right? And now with a little bit of strategy, but with much, much more energy, things are effortless, right? That doesn't mean that it doesn't require work. I do work, but things come a lot smoother, a lot easier because I am a conduit, right? And because I am fast to respond to the data. I read the data, I readjust, and if you fix the input, the output will fix itself. It really is that simple, right? You are the missing piece in this puzzle. If things around you and things in your relationship and things in your business and things in your bank account are not working to your favor, then it's time to look inwards. It's time to look at what your relationship is and how you are showing up in those different relationships, right? In your relationship with money, are you showing up in your divine masculine feminine, or are you showing up in your wounded masculine feminine? Right? Are you being needy? Are you being jealous? Are you avoiding? In your love relationship, are you showing up in your healthy divine masculine feminine, allowing your partner to be that opposite for you, or are you overcompensating and being the masculine for him, therefore not allowing him to be the masculine in your relationship? Right? Or are you dismissing when he reveals his feminine side? Are you dismissing that and not allowing him to be that? And then, of course, in money, in business, right? Am I showing up in my masculine, feminine? Am I able to balance those energies? Do I know when to tap into my dark and my light, and my dark and my light fem?
It's amazing. I do resonate with it a lot. And I want to bring it back to what you said earlier with the receiving and then the absorbing, multiplying in the heart, and then giving it out again. Now, because we speak on the one hand about energies, but then when we look at kind of bank accounts, we receive, and then there's sort of like a savings pot, and then there's like, again, what we spend. And maybe we can talk a bit about the size of the vessel, kind of like how much energy can we hold? Like how big is sort of like the savings reservoir that we hold in our lives versus maybe just being a tube where things come out and come in and they need to go out because there is nothing to basically store. So how do you set this up in your own life in terms of like how you run your business, but also in terms of your own energies within your body? What do you do to expand how much you can hold?
If you want to know what the size of your vessel is, look at your life currently, right? Look at the size of your bank account, look at the size, or not the size, but look at what it is that you want. Does it look the way that you want it to look, or does it look less than? Perhaps it looks more than, and that's amazing, right? If you're in that state. For me, definitely doing this work, working with mentors, investing in myself has stretched my vessel, right? You will only ever hold what you feel, you will only ever receive and hold and attract what you feel safe in having, right? If you don't feel safe in having more than what you currently have in your bank account because you've got a scarcity mindset, because you've got a story around what it means to have more. And this is very, very common because these are generational wounds as well, right? If in your family there was judgment around people with money, like, oh, people with money are bad people with money are cheaters, people with money are XYZ, then you wanting to be approved and fit into your family, does it ever feel like that mindset, like that belief system is going to support you in becoming wealthy? Of course not, right? Because you don't want to be one of the bad guys. You don't want to be one of those evil people. You want to be someone that is kind and loving. You want to be someone that belongs. So you cannot avoid doing the work, right? And these generational beliefs are passed down from generation to generation, which is why we see that money makes more money, that wealth marries wealth, and everybody else is just left, trying to fight for the same slice of the pie when there's more than enough for everyone. There's more than enough for everyone. I truly, truly do believe. And we've got evidence as well of people that have literally come from nowhere and built and created wealth for themselves. So I do not subscribe at all to the story that money is only available to certain people and certain groups. I believe that is a resource that is available to each and every single one of us. It does mean that some of us will need to develop more skills than others, right? Because those haven't been taught to us. So that is where taking radical responsibility plays a role. I take full responsibility to heal my ancestral wounds. I take full responsibility to heal my wealth wounds. I take full responsibility to rewrite my story, right? Because it's only by rewriting my story that I can become the narrator.
And I feel it also for me plays into this whole piece around boundaries. Do we have strong boundaries? Or I think we were speaking a few weeks ago with someone who was speaking about like the masculine and the feminine as well. And no, it was you actually. We were talking about the river.
Yes, that's
and
right.
you were
The
saying,
feminine
if
is the
there's
river, yeah.
if there's no river banks, then it just basically
Well, this is
flows
it.
everywhere.
The feminine is the water, right? The feminine just wants to flow and play and be supported, needs to be supported, which is where the masculine structure comes in. And boundaries is a healthy masculine trait, to be able to have strong boundaries. People pleasing is a wounded masculine trait, right? When I'm a people pleaser, it means that I have no boundaries. So regardless of if I'm a woman or a man, if I am a people pleaser and I have no boundaries and I don't know how to say no, that is my wounded masculine, right? That is not supporting my feminine flow. Therefore, like the water needs a riverbed in order to be contained. Otherwise, it's just a puddle and it's going to dry out. It doesn't have anywhere to go.
And I think that for me links into this whole piece of like only having what we feel safe to have. And it
Safety
requires,
is a very, very big thing.
Yeah, because it requires to become more assertive. It requires to take more of a stance. And especially I think when we talk about safety, there's a big piece for me like that safety is, I can think that I am safe, but does my body feel it is safe? And I feel there's a lot of somatics, and you were speaking about a whole bunch of somatics in today's conversation. So maybe we can go into how do we make our body feel safe? Like, what are the ways that you have found on your journey?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, the nervous system is everything, right, when it comes to feeling safe. And this is where we get to work with our body, right? Because we are living in our body. And as I said, the body is a barometer, and the body is also your vessel, right? So if you have a pattern of chronic pain, disease, anxiety, depression, right, that right there is a programming that does not allow you to feel safe. And if you don't feel safe in your body, How can you feel safe in love? How can you feel safe in wealth? How can you feel safe in the world, right? And if you don't feel safe in the world and in everything that you do, then a lot of your actions, a lot of your decisions are going to be coming from a place of survival. Now, so our survival coping mechanisms, our survival habits, behaviors, they're not a bad thing, right? They're literally there to keep you safe, to keep you alive. But the truth is, like, this is the only life that you have. So you can either survive this life or you can flourish and thrive through this life. Personally, I prefer flourishing and thriving because it's so much more fun, it's so much more expansive. And it's available to each and every single one of us. Like, why wouldn't you choose to thrive? Now, the part when it comes to, like, how do we work with the body? How do we heal with the body, right? Not the body separate to us, but with the body. Seek support. Absolutely seek support. Breath work is a very, very big one, of course. Grounding, as I said, that's a healthy masculine recalibrating tool, if you will. Meditation, again, movement, moving the body. It's so, so important to move the body. Remember that we have these 5 sort of levels of consciousness, or 5 doshas, and it is the physical, so that is the physical body and anything that we do physically, such as diet, such as movement, such as breath, such as any somatic work that we choose to do. The second layer is the energetic layer. So that is anything that we're doing on an energetic vibration frequency layer. The third layer, which is my favorite, is the emotion body. The emotion body carries so much information on our past pains and traumas that are affecting our present and our future. And then, of course, the higher self, and then the super consciousness levels. So it's only through working with the physical, the energetic, the emotion body that we can tap into the higher self. And the higher self is your gateway to your super conscious, to the divine, to the creator, to God, to allow things to drop through you all the way down into the physical layer, where you then become the hands, the voice, the body of God, the one that is here to deliver whatever it is that you're here to deliver.
It's really beautiful, because when you say, we are here to deliver, I think it comes back to the very beginning when we're talking about giving to get. While if you're like the hands of God, then we receive sort of, and it comes back to this conduit piece. And as you were now speaking about the emotion body, I feel what would be interesting to see, like, what are the emotional states that you prime yourself to be in that state of inner balance, able to receive and giving without attachment?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I work with sort of two emotion brackets, if you will. So the one is the transitional emotions, such as anger, such as joy, such as grief, such as disappointment, frustration, happiness, peace, etc., etc. Those are transitional emotions. And then I've got, from the human design model, of course, this is a big part of the work that I do. It's what is your human design type, and what is the sustainable vibrational frequency according to that type, right? Because happiness is not a sustainable state for us to always be in. If we were all happy and rainbows and unicorns, then I don't know, we must all be like on mushrooms or something, right? Like, that is not a sustainable state. And the lie that we've been told is that it's the pursuit of happiness. That's the meaning of life, to be happy. And that's not true. The meaning of life is to grow and evolve and to experience everything that you have come in the human form to experience. And that involves grief, that involves sadness, that involves anger, not rejecting our shadow side, because that's kind of like looking at a rainbow and choosing only to see the colors that you like, the blues and the yellows, and completely negating all the other colors, which then leaves you missing the full perspective of the rainbow's beauty. So these other emotions really are there to travel through us and past us, to give us feedback. They're feedback emotions, right? Joy is a feedback emotion. What else? Happiness is a feedback emotion. Anger is a feedback emotion. Sadness is a feedback emotion. These are here, and emotions chemically only have a 90-second cycle. 90 seconds is just enough to get your attention and to give you feedback. That yes, we want more of this. No, we want less of this. That's what the emotion is there for. It's to give you feedback. And if you don't know how to properly process an emotion, you store it, right? And any incomplete or any unprocessed emotions get stored and stored and stored in the physical body, in the tissues, which is why we say issues and tissues. That's why we create dis-ease within our body, right? That's why we have these echoes, if you will, of unprocessed emotions. And that's what trauma is, and that's what PTSD is. It's unprocessed emotions. The sustainable states that we have, that we can all, that according to your human design type, that we can all live in, is peace, is satisfaction, success, surprise, and gosh, I forgot the fifth one. It's slipping my mind. Anyway, when it comes up, I'll pop it in. This is your sustainable banner, if you will, right? As a manifester, my sustainable state is peace. So as long as I can make that banner as wide as possible, whether I'm experiencing happiness in the top end of my peace or anger and sadness in the lower end of my peace, as long as the undercurrent vibration is peace. I'm at peace with my anger. I'm at peace with my sadness. I'm at peace with my joy, right? Then I don't have these extreme highs and lows, like a roller coaster. Like one day I'm on top of the world and the next day something goes wrong and, I'm down in the dumps, because that will affect my vibrational energy. And if I'm consistently showing up inconsistently, then the only thing that's guaranteed is inconsistent results. But if I can consistently show up within this band of peace, everything else can start to reflect that back to me, all my decisions, all my actions, and therefore all my results will start to reflect that back to me.
This is super awesome. I really love how you contextualize the emotions and having these transitional emotions.
And I don't believe like in good or bad emotions. There's no bad emotions. Anger is not a bad emotion. Jealousy is not a bad emotion. Sadness is not a bad emotion. That's feedback. That right there is telling me something that I can work on or that I can process.
Do you remember in human design what the base frequency for manifesting generators are?
That is satisfaction.
Satisfaction. Awesome.
Yeah. So the question that you need to ask yourself is, am I satisfied with my output? Am I satisfied with the way that I responded? Am I satisfied with this interaction? Am I satisfied with the relationship, right? It's not, am I happy with? Am I satisfied? And you can replace that word with like other synonyms, like, am I content here?
That is so cool. I love that. And the other piece I think that's super interesting is when you say emotions are feedback and they have a 90-second life cycle. So like biophysically, what is an emotion? Is it just like a chemical response and our body processes it? And then I think the question is like, how do you properly process an emotion? Because I think that's actually a big challenge. And if we can enlighten people here today with like, this is how you process these like 90 seconds of like anger, sadness, frustration, grief, happiness, whatever, then I think we've our job done. We gave some liberation.
Absolutely. Expression, right? That's what emotions, that's why they come up, right? To be expressed, to be released. And it's only by expressing them and releasing them that we feel liberated from them. So we've been taught as children to behave, right? So it wasn't appropriate to throw a temper tantrum. It wasn't appropriate to cry. It wasn't appropriate to scream. So we've been taught actually to suppress our emotions. So that's why when we get these like quote unquote bad emotions or negative emotions, we don't allow ourselves to fully feel it, to fully embody it so that we can properly express it and release it. And that's when it gets stored and it gets stored and it gets stored. And the more of that you have stored, the less space you have for the high vibration emotions, for the good emotions, because you've filled up your memory, if you will, or your storage box with all the low vibration emotions, which will manifest sooner or later in your life, in your relationship, in your physical health, in your bank accounts.
It's super beautiful. And it relates to this question that Rhonda was just asking. So how do we get to the state of even keel? And from what I'm picking up, what you're saying is that it's actually not about the even keel. It's about like going with it, being angry or being sad. Is that what you're saying with like expressing it, or do you find specific
it's not
containers?
reacting to the emotion, right? It's learning how to respond, and you can only learn how to respond once you've done a lot of the healing work. If you don't do the healing work, then you're going to just be going around like someone with Tourette's, you know, just like screaming whenever you want to scream, which I do not advise. I mean, in my containers, we definitely we create a sort of ritual around when and where and how I will release my emotions, because it's not always going to be appropriate to scream. It's not always going to be appropriate for you to be angry. But the more of that you do in private, and the more of that you do in a safe container, and the more of that you understand and identify where the root cause is of my anger, where the root cause is of my sadness, where the root cause is of my fear of abandonment, rejection. When I understand the root cause, then I can also understand what function it's still serving in my life. So this is something that I explore in great depth inside my container. Like, what's the function of this anger? What's the function of this fear? The reason you still have it is because it's serving or validating some narrative, some story. Right? So let's go back and rewrite that story. Let's go back and heal, release, rewrite, rearrange anything that is keeping us from moving forward. But then once I've done like the majority of the releasing work and the processing work, moving forward, it doesn't require heal, release, rewrite, heal, release, rewrite. It then just requires process and respond, process and respond. But initially it's heal, release, rewrite, heal, release, rewrite. Once I've done the majority of my healing work, then I can catch those emotions right away, process, respond, and I will always respond in a way that is in alignment with my highest values. How do I want to be responding? How do I want to be showing up? You know, how do I want to be communicating? And in terms of the state of even keel, we're talking about homeostasis. Right, homeostasis, you're going to have those ups and downs, but ideally you want to raise that center bar that seesaw is balancing on. You want to raise it so that the standard of my highs and lows is much more level, and also it also comes back to like homeostasis as quickly as possible. So the higher that like level is, the easier it is for me to tap into the higher vibration emotions and not downward spiral when I have a low vibration emotion, but to be able to release it and process it and respond from a place of love, from a place of peace, from a place of satisfaction. Like, this is how I want to respond when I'm angry, right? This is how I want to respond when I'm sad. This is how I want to respond. I don't want to go into like my automatic reactive living and reactive way of responding in an unhealthy way that's not going to serve this conversation, that's not going to serve this person, that's not going to serve me.
And it's interesting because you were speaking about once a lot of things are healed, then the process becomes a lot quicker. And what it brought up for me was that until we have healed, then if there's anger coming up, it's not actually just the anger of the present moment. It feels like the anger of a lifetime. And so the sort of like ferocity with which the emotion arises appears to be much stronger than actually, and much harder to contain actually, compared to it's just a bit of anger. Okay, cool, awesome. Let's just process it. And be done.
Exactly. And you know, it's really interesting. I can honestly say that with me, you know, in the past, when something upset me, it would take me weeks and months to get over it. Whereas now I give myself like a 30-second adulting timeout, you know, and I'll express what I need to express, and then like immediately I can come back to my center of gravity, my peace state, and then respond from there. But I will absolutely give myself permission to process that emotion. It's got a 90-second cycle, so I'm going to give it 30 seconds to be expressed, right? And then I can come back into my center and respond from that place, respond from a place that I know is going to serve me, is going to serve the other person, and is going to serve the greatest, highest good of all. And that's what embodiment is. Embodiment is really being in your body, knowing how to read your body. And when you are in your body, when you are reading your body, when you are fluent in that language and tapping into your higher levels of consciousness, I mean, your body is an amazing vehicle that you get to experience and express life from and through.
I feel that connects us back to the very first conversation we had, where we were speaking about the larynx and the whole piece around like sexual energy and like 5 chakras being basically, yeah, it's like how do things integrate in our body so that they can then be spoken with truth and conviction. And maybe that's actually connecting as well to this piece of like, where do we speak from? You know, like, do we speak from the head or do we speak from the heart? And maybe we can map that also to kind of the emotional landscape a little bit.
Absolutely. So the interesting thing is, like, when we're children, we're taught that our silence is what will keep us safe, right? But as an adult, that translates to not using our voice is what will keep us safe. So that's why a lot of people have a visibility block. A visibility block is not just not wanting to be seen, but it's not wanting to be heard, right? Or not allowing myself to be heard and to speak up for myself. When we're speaking from our mind, we're speaking from our masculine, we're speaking from our analytical, our logical. So, you know, we can always use our mind to access certain information as and when it's relevant, that needs to be filtered through the masculine. When we're speaking from our heart, though, we're speaking from desire. We're speaking from a place that isn't logic, right? And that always feels a lot more unsafe because there's a higher potential of that not being misunderstood, or that possibly allowing me to feel rejected, allowing me to feel abandoned if the other person doesn't agree. So for me, this is where the healing work comes in, because when I heal those fears, fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, the need to stay small, the visibility block, all these things that's keeping me from communicating my desires, expressing my desires, and from receiving my desires, all these things that's keeping me from that, can be released, can be rearranged so that I can start to show up consistently, authentically, with integrity in all that I do, whether I'm speaking from my masculine or my feminine, because these are connected. They're married. They're unified. They're no longer two separate parts of me. I'm not showing up in my business in my masculine and in my relationship in my feminine. I'm able to connect those two parts and speak fluently in the same language and speak in my higher self's language, right? We're talking about a third language even.
Totally resonates, and this sort of like anticipated fear of rejection when one opens the heart. And this is a big thing for me, this sort of like erratic opening and closing, it feels, and training to stay open more consistently. Because I feel things move in a very different way when I actually speak from my heart, and I recognize as well how my kind of the pitch of my voice changes, and it's fascinating to recognize. Yeah, there's different places that we can, or even sometimes speaking from the solar plexus. That's, I think, really where for me power comes from, and this bit of not malicious anger, but kind of like, man, things need to move. Let's move. Let's energy of urgency in a way. And yeah, I feel what you're sharing with the emotion body is, yeah, deeply beautiful to be a more surrendered and effective creator. And I think when you were speaking about the visibility block, what came up for me is that it's this piece of not wanting to be received. And we spoke in the beginning of our conversation of like receiving and giving in oneself. And maybe we can kind of flip this around a little bit and look at, giving others the opportunity, to receive us. What's your take on this?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, like 100%, it's how am I showing up? Because that's the only part that I'm responsible for. I'm not responsible for how the other person will receive me, right? That's their job. So this is where we practice non-attachment to how we will be received, non-attachment to how we will be perceived, right? Because a lot of ego comes into how I'm going to be perceived and trying to control and manipulate my perception or people's perception of me, which we see quite a lot of, when we're talking about social media and online. Everyone is showing their edited version, or they're showing what they are comfortable and safe in showing, or maybe they're showing what they need to show in order to get the type of attention that validates them. So that is that does come from a place of trying to manipulate, your image, or trying to control your image. Whereas if you are showing up in integrity, and you are showing up in truth, and you are showing up authentically, that's going to resonate really, really hard with some people, and with other people, it's going to trigger the fuck out of them. And that's okay. Like if they're triggered by you, then that's a wonderful opportunity for them to A, either do something about it, or B, run away. You're not responsible for what they choose. What you're responsible for is how you show up, how you communicate, how you express, how you serve. And then that is going to make you either magnetizing or polarizing. And that's what makes you able to create a bigger impact. If you're vanilla, and you're just trying to serve everyone and trying to be nice to everyone, and just trying to fit in everywhere, with professional or romantic or personal relationships, then you're going to be like, forgettable, right? It's all about grounding into your true essence. It's all about grounding into your purpose. Remember what I said, purpose is one and the same for each and every single one of us, to be the greatest, most expansive version of us. Beyond that, our vision, our mission gets to change and evolve and grow. And that's amazing. As long as I'm always showing up as me in all areas of my life, then I can start to expect and assume that the results will be consistent as well.
Rolanda was asking a question here, like, how do we get through the healing on things we don't know we need to heal from?
We can't see our own blind spots, which is something that we cannot work on our own. I absolutely highly recommend finding a teacher, a mentor, a healer that resonates with you, and stepping into a container. If you cannot step into a container to be supported, then that is you unconsciously choosing to not be supported, right? To remain in fear, to remain in struggle, to remain in scarcity and lack, and then never understanding why this pattern keeps repeating itself. I always recommend working with someone. There's only so much that we can DIY, and no man is an island.
I remember in Genius Network, they always saying, everybody sits in a little glass jar and you just can't read the label from within. And I mean, also in our mass, I mean, it's interesting to see people sharing their struggles, and then somebody always has a beautiful recommendation. And so, yeah, containers. The other piece that I wanted to pick up on, Anastasia, is we just touched on this receiving piece, like how other people receive us. It's totally up to them. And I think that there's an interesting dilemma or paradox, maybe, because it's in ways as well, to what degree are we responsible for our action? Because I mean, if we're always coming from a place of like love and peace, and then totally, yeah, how they receive me, it's absolutely their shit. But I guess we are all having like light and dark within us, And at times, like our most malicious, like inner selves want to come through. And then, I mean, is it in your life that you feel like you totally filter all of this out? Or do you
Oh,
feel...
hell no. I do not tolerate bullshit. and that's my dark feminine. Like I'm fuckwithable. You know, if someone is causing chaos, then that's a non-negotiable. Like that's a standard that I do not tolerate. So you will always receive what you're able to tolerate. And because my tolerance level for bullshit is very, very low, I have really strong boundaries, right? So that's my dark masculine. My dark masculine is to have strong boundaries, not forceful, not you know, not they're not walls. I just have standards that need to be met in order for me to feel safe and in order for me to protect my feminine. And you know, when I say no, then it doesn't mean that I'm saying no with hate or I'm saying no, you know, with an emotion or with a feeling that's bad. That's 100% how the other person will perceive that no, right? I say no from a place of self-love and self-respect. And if that's not received in that way, I'm not responsible for how it's received. Just like when people are offended, offense isn't given, offense is taken, right? Sorry, offense isn't, no, that's right. Offense isn't given, offense is taken. So you take offense to something. That's your shit. That's not the other person. Like there's ignorant people out there. There's people that are going to say stupid things and you can either be triggered by it or not. And understand where that trigger is coming from. Is that trigger a trauma trigger, or is that trigger a truth trigger? Right? Did something that they say trigger truth in me, or did something that they say trigger a trauma within me?
It's amazing. Trauma triggers and truth triggers. Also, let's get to the question that Kaiser is asking. Like, any recommendations or ways to handle people who do not have boundaries?
So I'm going to assume that means people who overstep my boundaries, right? Because boundaries is your duty, your responsibility. If someone else doesn't have boundaries, then there we go, or respect your boundaries. Then if someone else doesn't have boundaries, I mean, you want to be respectful of their need. But ultimately, that's their responsibility. So your boundaries are the gates around your garden. You know, no one is going to come fix the gates in your garden. No one is going to come and fix your garden up. That is 100% your responsibility. And if you're hanging over your neighbor's fence and looking at their garden and saying, oh, this is so beautiful and that's so beautiful, and not spending time in your garden, nurturing the things that you want to nurture, planting the seeds that you want to plant, weeding the weeds out, then of course your garden's going to look like shit because you didn't put up a fence, because you didn't take care of your garden. So boundaries is our own individual response. Beyond that, like if someone does or doesn't respect your boundaries, you can't be held responsible for that, right? And especially if you're new to setting boundaries, it's gonna feel uncomfortable. It's gonna feel uncomfortable, and especially people that you have certain dynamics with, they're not gonna immediately know and respect your boundaries, right? Because they've got years and years of experience of you not having boundaries. So that's where it's required of you to put in the time, the effort, the energy, and to learn how to become a better communicator, to communicate these new boundaries and to say no, right? If you keep falling into the trap of people pleasing and, you know, obligation and always saying yes, who's going to suffer at the end of the day? You, right? You're the one that's going to be giving up all your time and energy doing things that you shouldn't be doing. You're the one that's going to be running out of time and energy for the things that you actually wanted to be doing because you gave your time up. And that's you discounting yourself. If you discount yourself, don't be mad at like discount shoppers.
It's amazing last words. In terms of summarizing, what would you like to leave people with? Maybe a mantra, couple points that you feel are the most crucial to really step into receiving.
Yeah, absolutely. Take a nice big breath in, hand in your heart. We always exhale audibly, so in through the nose. I want you to repeat after me. It's safe for me to receive. It's safe for me to trust. I am safe here. And again, it's safe for me to receive. It's safe for me to trust. I am safe here. Good. And when I say here, I mean in your body, in your heart. So really grounding into this physical body. I'm safe. I'm not in any danger, right? All the danger that we create for ourselves is in our mind. So it's really dropping into the body, dropping into the heart, and nurturing that safety within you. And a great thing to ask yourself when you find yourself like panicking or stressing or going into like this downward spiral thought pattern, it's how can I love you right now, right? What can I do for you right here, right now? Speaking to yourself, speaking to your inner child. Maybe right now what I need is a hug, you know, so go and get a hug. Maybe right now what I need is a rest, a nap, so go take a nap. Maybe I need to play, go dance, go do something to shift your energy. Maybe what I need right now is a cup of tea, just so I can come back into my body, get grounded, and learn to respond to rather than react to. Right? Respond is an action, react is a thought.
That was beautiful. It's really interesting. Like I suddenly saw you very differently, and maybe because both of our energies changed while doing the mantra. It was super awesome. So we put all the links to, if any of you want to connect more with like Anastasia and the work, there's all the links in the description. Is there anything else that you want to invite people to?
Yeah, absolutely. I would really, really like to invite all of you to watch my free masterclass, Spiritual and Wealthy as Fuck, The Art of Surrendered Manifesting. If you are someone who is a full-bodied fuck yeah kind of person and you are ready to pick up the speed, because I only work with speed and not everyone can keep up, then I absolutely invite you and encourage you to reach out to me and book a call with me or one of my accelerator mentors. But as I said, disclaimer, only if you are ready to pick up the speed and only if it's a fucking non-negotiable.
Amazing. Yeah, if any of you want to join the community, just click on the button under the video. And Anastasia, so much love.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
So good. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you, darling. Bye.